Chapter 1: The Deadly Lunch. In July 2023, the quiet town of Leongatha, Victoria, was shaken by what became known as the mushroom mystery. Erin Patterson invited her former in-laws to lunch, serving a homemade beef Wellington. Within days, 3 guests were dead, and 1 was left fighting for life. The cause: death-cap mushrooms, among the most lethal fungi in the world. The horror lies not just in the deaths, but in the eerie uncertainty. Erin herself claimed she ate the same dish and survived. Police investigations revealed inconsistencies in her account, and the case quickly spiraled into one of Australia's most disturbing modern tragedies. Was it an accident, or something darker? Chapter 2: The Silent Killer. Death-cap mushrooms are deceptive. They look like ordinary edible fungi, yet a single cap can kill an adult. Symptoms mimic food poisoning, lulling victims into false recovery before liver failure sets in. In Leongatha, the victims, Gail and Don Patterson, and Gail's sister Heather, suffered agonizing declines. Their deaths echoed old folklore warnings about nature's hidden dangers. A family gathering turned into a nightmare. Chapter 3: Shadows of Suspicion. The case gripped Australia. Media outlets dubbed it a real-life horror story. Investigators combed through Erin's past, her cooking habits, even her internet searches. The image of a smiling hostess, serving a dish that carried death, became a haunting symbol. The community whispered, was this negligence, or murder cloaked in domestic normalcy? Chapter 4: The Haunting Legacy. Even now, the mushroom mystery remains unresolved in the public's mind. It is a story of trust betrayed at the dinner table, of nature's lethal camouflage, and of grief that lingers in a small Victorian town. For Australians, it is a reminder that horror doesn't always come from ghosts or folklore. It can arrive quietly, on a plate, in the home of someone you thought you knew. The Outback Vanishing, the case of Paddy Moriarty. In December 2017, the tiny town of Larimer in the Northern Territory, population just 11 people, became the stage for one of Australia's strangest modern mysteries. Paddy Moriarty, a 70-year-old cattleman, left the local pub with his dog Kelly and was never seen again. The town was isolated, surrounded by harsh outback terrain. No trace of Paddy, no trace of his dog. It was as if the desert swallowed them whole. Suspicion in a town of 11. Police scoured the scrubland, searching for bones, clothing, any sign of life. But the investigation quickly turned inward. In a town of only 11 residents, everyone knew everyone, and everyone had secrets. Neighbors whispered of feuds, bitter rivalries, and long-standing grudges. Some believed Paddy's disappearance was no accident. That someone in Larimer knew exactly what happened. The horror of silence. The case became infamous, not just for the disappearance, but for the eerie atmosphere it left behind. Imagine living in a town where one of your neighbors vanished, and suspicion hung over every conversation. The pub where Paddy was last seen became a ghostly landmark. Tourists arrived, drawn by the macabre mystery, but locals lived under a shadow. Legacy of fear. Years later, the case remains unsolved. No body, no closure. Just the haunting image of a man and his loyal dog, walking into the night, never to return. For Australians, the Larimer mystery is a reminder that horror doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes, it's the silence of the outback, the emptiness of a town, and the knowledge that someone, somewhere, may still hold the truth. The Belanglo Curse, the Backpacker Murder's Legacy. Chapter 1: The Forest of Fear. The Belanglo State Forest in New South Wales has long carried a reputation steeped in dread. In the 1990s, it was the site of Ivan Milat's infamous backpacker murders. a case that scarred Australia's collective memory. But horror did not end with Malat's imprisonment. In the last decade, new tragedies have kept Belanglo's name alive in whispers and warnings. In 2010, Malat's great-nephew Matthew was convicted of murdering a teenager in the same forest. The chilling echo of history, a family member repeating the cycle of violence, cemented Belanglo as cursed ground. Locals began to avoid the forest. Travelers spoke of an atmosphere heavy with silence and menace. Even in daylight, the trees seemed to close in, as if holding secrets too dark to reveal. Chapter 2: Echoes of the Past. The forest became a magnet for ghost hunters, journalists, and curious wanderers. Stories spread of strange sounds, footsteps in the undergrowth, and sudden drops in temperature. Some claimed to hear voices, faint cries carried on the wind. Others swore they saw figures moving between the trees, only to vanish when approached. Police patrols continued, wary of copycat crimes. The shadow of Malat lingered, his name invoked whenever another disappearance was reported in New South Wales. Though many cases were explained, the association with Belanglo kept the fear alive. It was no longer just a crime scene, it was a living legend of horror. Chapter 3: The Haunting Legacy. For Australians, Belanglo is more than a forest. It is a reminder of how evil can stain a place, how violence can echo across generations. Families of victims still grieve, their pain renewed whenever the forest is mentioned. Tourists arrive, drawn by morbid curiosity, but leave unsettled by the oppressive silence. The horror of Belanglo lies not in ghosts, but in the reality that human cruelty left scars deeper than folklore. It is a place where true crime and horror overlap, where history itself feels haunted. And for those who walk its trails, every snapping twig, every shadow between the trees, carries the weight of what happened there. Chapter 1: The Vanishing. In October 2021, 4-year-old Cleo Smith vanished from her family's tent at the Blowholes campsite near Carnarvon, Western Australia. Her mother awoke to find Cleo gone, along with her sleeping bag. The campsite was remote, surrounded by rugged coastline and endless desert scrub. It was as if the child had been plucked from the earth itself. The disappearance sparked immediate fear. Police launched one of the largest search operations in Australian history. Volunteers combed the dunes, helicopters scanned the coastline, divers searched the waters. But there was no trace of Cleo. Chapter 2: The Nation Holds Its Breath. For 18 days, Australia was gripped by the mystery. Parents locked their doors, children were kept close. The image of Cleo's smiling face spread across the country. Every news bulletin carried her name. Speculation ran wild. Had she wandered into the desert, claimed by the elements? Or had someone taken her in the dead of night? The horror lay in the silence, the absence of answers. Chapter 3: The Breakthrough. On November 3rd, police forced entry into a locked house in Carnarvon. Inside, they found Cleo alive. Sitting quietly in a room, she looked up and said the words that broke the nation's tension. "My name is Cleo." The man arrested was Terence Kelly, a local resident. He had kept Cleo hidden for over 2 weeks. The revelation was both a relief and a chilling reminder of how close horror had come to becoming tragedy. Chapter 4: Shadows That Remain. Cleo was reunited with her family, her survival celebrated as a miracle. But the case left scars. The Blowholes campsite became a place of unease. Parents across Australia felt the lingering dread of how quickly safety can shatter. The horror of Cleo's disappearance lies not in folklore, but in the reality of human cruelty. It is a story of fear, hope, and the haunting knowledge that evil can strike even in the most ordinary places. The Tinder Murder, The Case of Warriena Wright. Chapter 1. The Meeting. In August 2014, 26-year-old Warriena Wright travelled from New Zealand to Queensland for a short holiday. She matched with a man named Gable Tosti on Tinder. They agreed to meet and spent the evening together in his high-rise apartment on the Gold Coast. What began as a casual encounter quickly spiralled into a nightmare. Neighbours later reported hearing screams, arguments, and desperate pleas. The night ended with Warriena falling 14 floors to her death. Chapter 2. The Apartment of Fear. Police discovered chilling audio recordings from Tosti's phone. The recordings captured the escalating tension, Warriena's fear, and Tosti's cold detachment. At one point, she begged to leave. Moments later, she was locked out on the balcony. The horror of the case lay not only in her death, but in the haunting audio evidence. Her final moments preserved, her panic echoing against the walls of the apartment. The balcony became a symbol of terror, a place where freedom was just beyond reach. Chapter 3. Trial and Shadows. The case went to trial, gripping Australia with its disturbing details. Was it murder or a tragic accident? The jury heard the recordings, the arguments, the silence that followed. In 2016, Tosti was acquitted of murder and manslaughter. But the verdict did little to erase the horror. For many, the case became a warning about the dangers of online dating. A reminder that trust can be shattered in an instant. And that evil can hide behind a smile, a profile picture, or a casual invitation. Chapter 4. Legacy of Fear. Years later, the story of Warriena Wright still haunts the Gold Coast. Her family grieves, her name remembered as a victim of circumstance and cruelty. The apartment remains infamous, whispered about by locals and visitors alike. The Tinder murder is not folklore, it is fact. A chilling reminder that horror can unfold in the most ordinary settings. A holiday, a date, a night out. And in the end, a young woman's life cut short, leaving behind echoes that will never fade. The Bogong Moth Tragedy, Canberra, 2022. Chapter 1. The Swarm. In late 2022, residents of Canberra witnessed a disturbing invasion. Millions of bogong moths descended on the city, drawn by artificial lights. For weeks, homes, schools, and hospitals were overwhelmed. Walls crawled with insects, ceilings dripped with wings. The sound of their bodies hitting glass became a nightly chorus of dread. What seemed like a natural event quickly took on the atmosphere of horror. Children woke screaming, adults sealed doors and windows, yet the moths found their way inside. The city felt under siege. Chapter 2. The Hidden Danger. The bogong moth is more than a nuisance. It carries fungal spores, allergens, and the unsettling weight of folklore. Indigenous traditions long warned of the moth's power, its migrations tied to survival and ceremony. But in 2022, the swarm became a plague. Hospitals reported spikes in respiratory distress. Families abandoned homes, unable to sleep through the endless fluttering. The horror was not just in the numbers, but in the sense of invasion. A living tide, unstoppable, relentless. Chapter 3. The Psychological Toll. The swarm left scars beyond the physical. Residents spoke of paranoia, of phantom wings brushing their skin even in empty rooms. Some claimed to hear whispers in the night, the sound of wings forming words. Others swore the moths gathered in shapes, faces pressed against windows. The city's lights became symbols of danger. Every glow drew more moths, every flicker summoned the swarm. Canberra became a city of shadows, its people trapped in a nightmare of nature turned against them. Chapter 4. Legacy of Fear. By the end of the season, the moths moved on. But the memory remained. Walls were scrubbed, ceilings repainted, yet the sense of violation lingered. For many, the Bogong swarm was more than an infestation. It was a reminder that horror can come not from killers or ghosts, but from the natural world itself. In 2022, Canberra learned that even the smallest creatures, in vast numbers, can turn life into a waking nightmare.